honor to have some master basket weavers with us. These two women, they really have dedicated their lives to making sure that the beautiful Salish basketry is continued.
I'm Nisqually, I'm Chehalis, Nisqually, Potawatomi, Sac and Fox. I'm a 6th generation weaver since the signing of the treaties. And my daughters are 7th generation weavers, as is my niece, Betty. My grandchildren are 8th generation weavers, and I have a 7-year-old great granddaughter, and she's a 9th generation weaver. She's 7 and receiving her tribal name tomorrow, so a huge celebration for us. I'm from a family of 14, raised by a single parent, and as I was growing up, until I graduated from 8th grade, the Chehalis reservation did not have electricity, running water, or a paved road. When the yellow bus came to pick us up, school kids always talked about that, about going to the outside. We're not unique. All up and down the I-5 corridor, that was the situation of our tribes. Of course, housing was promised in the treaties. The lifestyle comparable to non-Indian people was promised, but we didn't see that materialize for 4 generations. So as you saw the timeline earlier, that's what it's been about. Colonization, the 5 steps of colonization, meant to assimilate us and make us into white people. We have resisted, and remnants of our art, basketry, weaving, the gathering of food, literally are being pieced together by my generation, the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. The work will never be done because involved with reclaiming the past, we're also adding the new inventions to the art of basketry, so it's unending. I am working without a net here, meaning I don't have access to a time. And I see the proctor is way over here, and it's going to be out of my eyesight. So someone, if you would go like this at 11:05, then we will know to cut, because I know you need to get back onto a schedule. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. At Evergreen, I teach in the Native American Studies. This is my 40th year. And we always talk about the floor where our young scholars, our students, do the work. We have a candle in the area, and we also look to the candle to be reflective about our history, our past, our ancestral knowledge, our stories. And then we celebrate around food, as you did, to bring in this commitment to communal learning, to the essence of us as a community, composed by many individuals, many talents, many stories. And then as our work has evolved at Evergreen, based on the initial thinking and praying and coming together for our people by Mary Ellen Hilaire, we have added the feather, where we ask our young scholars to look into the future, to look into the future that we will not see. We will not see the faces of our children, hear the laughter of our children. We will not see the tears, hear the cries of the historical trauma that will continue to live into the future. And that's why we commit to this, to basketry, because this is healing for our people. I'd like to ask my niece to also introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lahilawa. My English name is Betty Pacheco. I'm a member of the Nisqually Indian tribe, and it is such an honor to be here this morning with all of you. And we learned about this presentation, or the synopsis, I'm a doctoral student at University of Washington in Tacoma, and so it came through one of our UW emails, and I told Anne, I'm like, I really want us to do a presentation, let's get together and submit and cross our fingers that we get chosen to present here today. So again, it is such an honor to be here, and I'm so happy to share my knowledge with you. As I look forward towards my dissertation next year, my goal is to work with our Native youth when it comes to culture and education. This has been my life. I've only known basketry since I was born. I always talk about my grandmother was Hazel P. Chehalis, and she is the one that taught me. I remember learning how to braid black raffia for hair, and we would put it on cattail dolls. And so those are my first memories, and I look back and there's all these different pictures of me, my sister, my grandmother as we learn. And being a master weaver, we have to be able to gather all the materials. If we look here, we have cedar. We have to know how to go out to gather the cedar in the season. We have to go out and be able to gather cattail. We have to be able to go out and get sweetgrass. So as I was growing up, we all learned how to work with all the materials, how to gather materials, and we kind of get to a point where we're looking to see what is our passion, what do we enjoy working with. For me, it's always been working with cedar, making cedar baskets, cedar hats, but everyone has like a specialty. My sister, she's enjoying working with sweetgrass, but lately I've been really wanting to, and I've been getting more involved with working with cattail baskets. When I go to different basket conferences, there's not a lot of people who are currently working with cattail. One, because it's hard to gather and harvest, and then having the knowledge to work with cattail. So I teach at Northwest Indian College at Nisqually site, and in the spring I teach basketry 151, 152, 153. So in my beginning classes, I've had my students make an Easter basket out of cattail, and I've also had them make these, as we just had May 1st, which is a May Day basket. So growing up, we've always said, if you're not familiar with May 1st, it's May Day. What you do is you take your basket, put flowers, and then you put it on, you knock on someone's door, you put this on their handle on the door. And so I had presented the May Day basket to my class at Northwest Indian College. And so we've been using it with cattail and sweetgrass. And then I had bought flowers from Michael's and Dollar Tree, was able to put these in there, and it was just a great experience to share something making cattail. Again, not a material that's being used as much as you see cedar being used all the time. So I'm trying to bring back cattail baskets, sweetgrass baskets, materials that other people need to know how to work with and how to make baskets. So this is a traditional cattail mat. We would use this when we're in our lodge. We would place our food on here. We would also, this is our cattail basket with cattail, sweetgrass, and raffia. This is made from
Nancy Cecina.
Nancy Cecina. She's our ancestral ancestor, elder from Chehalis tribe. This would be a gathering basket. So we just heard in our previous presentation about camas, and the camas bulbs. My grandma used to call them little onions. So I grew up on the Chehalis Reservation, and way back when, before we had Lucky Eagle Casino, I used to live on a dirt road, and there was like no lights above, but there was always fields of camas. And I remember gathering camas when I was younger with my grandmother. And so we would use this basket to store camas. So a lot of these baskets are also, again, used for food storage. This is a cedar berry gathering basket. This is the outside of the cedar. So when you're gathering cedar, you're still using all of the cedar. This is the outer bark. This is still used to be a basket. And this is made from Lindsay Halapat, who is Yakima. So you would wear this. If I'm out there on the mountains gathering huckleberries, I put my berries in here, So I'm out there gathering camas or different materials. So everything that you gather is being used. So we're not wasting anything when we gather cedar, when we gather cattail. When you're working with cattail, you have to take the outer part off. My mom calls it feathers. So even the feathers of the cattail, you're using that in your coil baskets. That's what's in the inside of this basket is the feathers from the cattail. So again, when we're gathering, we're making sure we're using every part of the tree, the cedar, the cattail, the sweetgrass. Everything is being used, and so this is what we do. And again, I feel so honored to be here, and I enjoy teaching basketry. As a master weaver, I teach at NABA. I also teach at the Okanagan Basket Weavers Conference over at OMAC. And so many times I have elders that come to my table and they tell me, oh, I've never made a basket. And to me, it's like, here's my elder, someone who is from Muckleshoot or from Nia Bay or wherever they're at Saxonwaddle. And for them to say, I've never made a basket, and they're at their age, and they say, oh, I can't make a basket, I may have arthritis, or I can't see. And I encourage my elders to come make a basket with me, and I tell them, you can make a basket, and I'll sit there and I'll help them, because it's a side-by-side art that I do. And so I may be holding the basket, have them weave aside, weave again. I might help them do a couple rows, and then I'll show them how to do the ending. And then they say, oh, no, you made it. I'm like, no, you did the weaving. You did the raffia. I'm just there to assist you. And the pride that they feel and the joy they have in their eyes saying, oh, this is my first basket. Yes, it is your first basket. Let's make another one. I'll see you next year at the next conference. And I have the youth that come. I had one child who's been coming since she was 5, and she's 10 now, and she still reflects about how she first made her first basket with me and how she continues to come every year, and that's what we need. We need those youth to continue to learn how to make baskets, because if we don't, then where does it end? I have my son who's 30, he's a master weaver, and I have my youngest son who's 12. My 12-year-old, as we all know, technology, Xbox, gaming, laptops, he has no desire to weave with me, but I make him go with me. I make him go with me to get sweetgrass. I make him go with me to get cedar. I make him, when we go to, next weekend we'll be at Wolf Lodge for the Hazel Peak Basket Institute conference. And so I make him go, before he can go to the water park, he has to make 3 games. He said, can I make it all with you? Fine, but you see me every day, we can make baskets. Go make something with someone else. Because I tell my students when I'm teaching, how many of you weave? And no one raises their hands. But I ask them, how many of you have a basket? Oh, this came from my grandmother. Okay, so that's your grandmother, your mom, you, your child. But if your mom doesn't weave, your grandma weaved, and you have a child, that's 4 generations that aren't weaving. So when my grandma brought this basketry back to us, back to Chehalis people, and back to share with other tribes, she was doing that at a time where they weren't allowed to do that. And if we have 4 generations of our native people who aren't making baskets, then who's it going to end with? And I tell my son, you're 12, you're my next generation. I learned from my grandma, my aunts, now me, now you. You at 12 have to learn, because I don't want to die and then end with me. So I constantly tell them at 12, one day you'll have kids, you'll take them to the beach, and you'll take them to go gather, you'll take them out to go get cedar, but that's what we do. We need to encourage the youth, even if that means me forcing my son to go gather with me. But I hope in time that he realizes that this is such an important part of my identity, his identity, where we come from, and we have such a long, rich history from my grandmother, Hazel Peak, the one that taught all of us to me, my aunts and my mom. And so for me to be able to share with you all the different baskets that we have here and how we've all come together as a family to make this, it's important for you to see what is possible when it comes to baskets. Food, this again is used as food storage. And so thank you so much.
The attraction for coming to the food sovereignty gathering is to complete the circle, to address how we prepare the digging tools, how we prepare the implements from antler and bone so that you can get at the roots, get at the inner bark, get at the clippings of the new growth of the limbs that will make the tea. And baskets are then also used to serve, to dry, serve, process. And then as things dry, then they're put into baskets. And in our way, for the Chehalis, they would be hung from the eaves, like right over here. And so then, as they're put up there, they're marked in terms of the sequence for how those will be pulled down and used during the late fall and into the sacred season. So I value that you who are committed to the gatherings process, to the dining, all of that is connected back to the art of weaving. And so that's one of the things that I would like to impress upon you. When we go out together, we always form a circle. And we always acknowledge that there are gatherers in this circle who have brought with them and are wearing something of an icon from an ancestor who has passed. Because the ancestors are applauding that this work is not forgotten and that it continues to be taught. And so that is part of the work that we do. We always acknowledge the plants who stood up for us at the beginning of time. And earlier the speaker talked about all you have to do is just pick one plant to be knowledgeable about. So even for the gatherers, we value the teaching, that you don't teach everyone the same thing because then they won't need each other. I'm from a family of 14. I grew up with 8, and each one has taken on a different aspect. As we now have children and grandchildren, each one of us has selected one grandchild, and it may not be our own, it may be our niece or a nephew, but now they're taking over the bits and pieces, the remnant of our knowledge that they will take forward into the future. So even in gathering, get into the practice of saying it out loud when you are with a group of kids, and with our non-Indian allies and advocates for what we do for our work. Let them hear the words in English and in your language. I would like to acknowledge that my mother, Hazel P., was a graduate of the University of Washington. And this is a photo of her and myself. At this point, she was probably in her early 80s, and she lived to be 88. She passed in 01, 02, 03, and still very much alive with us. Not a day goes by that we don't use some of the materials that she had gathered, prepared, and put away for the future generations to use. That's the commitment of a person who is committed to the knowledge of basketry, to see that it's passed to the next generation. For myself, over my work with Hazel Pete and my grandmother, Harriet Bob Pete, so I do raise my hands to my Nisqually relatives who are here. Over the years, I've gotten acquainted with relatives at Nisqually. The Nisqually, Cowlitz, and Chehalis are related, and we mean by blood. We're related to them by blood. Our 3 chairs in this past election cycle have committed that we would get to know each other in person. And so each tribe has hosted the other two tribes over the years. And one of the reasons we get together is to look at food sovereignty and taste the foods. Look at basketry and make a basket so that the knowledge continues. I would also like to hold up one of the baskets that I worked on with Hazel Pete. And she always let us know that as Chehalis, we would begin with cattail. So you begin with, you'll see the cattail at the bottom of this. For weavers, when we look at other baskets, even in the museums through the glass, if we make the arrangements and get back into the archives, we first look at the bottom, then we look at the turning row, and then we look at the ending row. Because you need to know how to start, how to turn, and then how to do the turning row. We do have one basket here that is from the Hazel Pete collection. This would have been made towards the end of her life. And she worked with my second daughter, Hawana Oak here. And so this would have been one of the sample baskets that Hala was able to commit to. I would like to now ask for questions. Looks like we're losing our mic, so it might rely on you. I did want to mention that when I teach, I honor the 4 directions. So maybe I'm not meant to share this teaching. So let's go to the questions. Yes. At the end of our, we've been offering Weavers Teaching Weavers events since the 1990s. And we started out with Forest Park. Muckleshoot Elders with Virginia Cross. So at the time, she would have been a young woman warrior. And she committed that the Muckleshoots would support Hazel Pete in this endeavor. So over the years, we've graduated to now we host one of the events at the Great Wolf Lodge. But so we offer an event. What people do is pay to register, and that pays for the food and the building and the teachers who come from Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Western Montana, and British Columbia. The participants also come from those states and also outside of our region. It's festive, it's a celebration, it's intergenerational. Many techniques are offered. We have an event for the kids, and so that's coming up on May 10th and 11th. Our next one is American Indian Day in September, also at the Great Wolf Lodge. And then we do a materials prep a weekend after the 4th of July. And then we do a no frills. You get a meal, but that's about the only frill. You don't get name tags or anything. We do that in our Chehalis Community Center in February. So we're active in terms of getting the information out for the Hazel Pete weaving, but it's based in honor of Hazel Pete and her life. I did also want to mention that Hazel Pete was in the first graduating class of IAIA. There's probably graduates here. She was also in the first graduating class at the Evergreen State College. And while she was a student here, she was one of Dr. Willard Bill's students. So just a hands up to the supportive atmosphere that you are known for in terms of honoring the work of scholars of all ages, because she would have been in her 60s and 70s while she was a student here. Oh, thank you. Is there another question? All righty, so let us, thank you. Okay. We would like to thank Tia for helping us with technology and getting our proposal in and get everything together. We always make miniatures of the big things that we make. So this one is a woven sweetgrass basket with dyed bear grass. My sister, Wǝtë that would be Betty's mother. We usually send out word in advance, and it'll be this kind of word. We plan to die on Sunday, if you want to come and join us. So, see, it usually gets a chuckle because they were announcing it in advance. That's our day. But we do mean DYE, so